Hello friends, you were tuning in to TK Crafts. My name is Tracy Allen. Today is December 2nd, 2022, and we are going through our 12 days of Stampin' Up Christmas. And so I'm bringing you 12 days of just all kinds of Stampin' Up products, cards. Today our focus on day 2 is going to be embossing folders, and hopefully I can give you some new ideas for how you can use your embossing folders. Maybe these aren't new ideas, I know they've been around a while, but maybe this will inspire you to pull out your embossing folders and get using those again. I also want to remind you that we are having some amazing specials going on right now. So if you're catching the replay, do make sure that you comment and share to get entered into our drawing. That can get you 2 entries. You do have to tell me if you share though. The algorithms don't always tell me when someone shares a video. So do make sure you comment, share. And then today, will you just comment with your favorite embossing folder? Your favorite Stampin' Up embossing folder, maybe one you see today, maybe one you see on our website. I'd love to know what your favorite embossing folder is, and that'll get you entered into our drawing. And that drawing will happen tomorrow on day 3, since we're going to do all kinds of fun stuff. So we also have our current catalog that's going on right now is our July through December mini catalog, which I just fondly call our holiday catalog because it used to be called that. And it always has all our beautiful holiday stuff in it and so much more. But almost everything in here is retiring. There's just a few items carrying over into next year. The items that are retiring right now are while supplies last. And so I know I featured last night a stamp set that's gone now. It sold out already. And there's a few things I'm going to be featuring today that I have a feeling will sell out soon because they're at such a good price. So definitely check out the link. You'll see that in the comments after the video, or up on the description after the video, because I don't want you to miss out on these specials. All right, so it looks like we've got a few people joining. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera, and we're going to do our drawing from last night. So if you helped us out by commenting, thank you, thank you. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for commenting. And we're going to go ahead and I've put all of your names into our spinny wheel here. So the question last night, remember you have to answer the question to be entered into the drawing. The question last night was, which of the 4 tools that I showed is your favorite? So you picked one of those 4 tools. We had our take your pick tool, we had our paper trimmer, we had our bone folder, and our snips. And we featured a few cards with those. So if you are the winner, I'm going to be mailing you this cute little card pack. And that's going to have our featured card from yesterday with our super cute little penguin. Don't forget that penguin punch is still available while supplies last, though, because he is on sale for like $7.50 or $7.80. Not much. One of our another Christmas cards. This is a retiring set as well. And then another one of our beautiful cards. So I'll be sending those Christmas cards your way with envelopes as well for our winner. So let's spin our wheel. There we go. Spin, spin, spin. Yay! Our winner is Joan. Joan said her favorite tool was the Take Your Pick tool. Joan, I will be messaging you, and I know I have your address already, so I'll get those mailed off. All right. Put that away for now. And today I'm super excited because today we are working with embossing folders, and this is one of my favorite things to work with. Embossing folders are awesome, and you don't realize how versatile they are, and you can do so many different things with your embossing folders. Sometimes I think we forget that we have all of these different techniques we can use with our embossing folders. So I just want to remind you of a few of those today. So let me double check that we're live here. If you are coming online, if you are joining us online right now, today, if you comment with your favorite embossing folder, you will be entered into our drawing. And today's drawing is for some of our beautiful ribbon. This is our real red and garden green ribbon. And we're going to be giving some of that away along with a special Christmas card that we make today. So I'm excited to be able to send that to one of you. Such pretty ribbon. And all you need to do is just comment with your favorite embossing folder. It could be one we use today. It could be any of the embossing folders that we have. All right, I have got some things I want to show you. I'm so excited. So the first technique we're using is an inking technique. And this is going to be a background ink. And so we'll just jump right in here. We're going to use the, you know I was going to forget the name of it. That's why I put it over here. This one. This is our Timber 3D embossing folder. So it has this beautiful wood grain effect to it, and when you emboss with it, you get a really cool look. Now today we're actually going to take this and step it up a little bit. So we're going to be embossing, but we're going to emboss with ink too. So we're going to use a little bit of ink. You will need some sort of embossing machine. So we're using the Stampin Up Cut and Emboss machine. So I'm going to bring that right over here. There's never enough room on my desk. There's plenty of room on my desk. That's what I shouldn't say. There's never enough room in the camera because I want you to be able to see all this fun stuff. Now this is a 3D embossing folder. What that really means is that this folder has dimension to it. So a 3D embossing folder is going to have multiple layers. So it's going to have some ridges that come out a little bit further and some ridges that sit down a little further. So you get a real 3D effect instead of a regular embossing folder will only have one depth to it. And that's going to give you just one solid depth, but it's really, they're still beautiful. There's lots of wonderful embossing folders. It's just the cool thing about these 3D ones is, I don't know how they do it. I'm sure they laser cut it, but they have so much dimension when you use them. So we're going to start by just setting up our machine correctly. The easiest way to do that is on your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. You actually have cheat sheet for directions. It's so nice. You don't have to remember all this stuff because certainly I do not remember all this stuff. So I'm going to start by looking at our 3D embossing and using our 3D embossing folder. We just need plate 1 and plate 4. So this is plate 1 and this is plate 4. It's our embossing plate. Now I'm going to go ahead and set that to the side because we don't need that quite yet. And I'm going to work through our technique here with you. So your embossing folder has two sides to it. It has an indented side and like a lifted raised side. So when you feel on top, you can feel this is the raised and this is the indent. So it's going to press into this side. You're going to go ahead and find your indented side of your embossing folder. And you're going to choose some paper. I've actually chose our crumb cake cardstock. I've cut this to 5.5 by 4.25, which is a standard front card size. We're actually going to trim this down a little. The edges, for some reason, always tend to look a little like maybe they get a little too much ink or they get a little tilted or something when you're doing, or maybe they don't get anything on it when you're doing your embossing. So I always like to leave a little room to trim off before I do my card. So I'll actually trim 1/4 inch off each side before I put it on my card front. So I'm going to start by choosing a darker color ink than my paper. So you do want to have contrast here. Now, one of the cool things you could do is you could use a white or a chalk-based ink on a darker color paper because that'll stand out as well. And all we're embossing is the background. So we don't want these ridges to be colored. We want the background of our image to be colored. And so to do that, again, you're going to find that flat surface where all the impressions are down. For our folders, that's typically the front where it says Stampin' Up on it. So that's always a good way to remember. I chose some early espresso ink. And I'm going to open that up. Just making sure my camera's working here. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and ink up our embossing folder here. So I'm just going to gently put some ink, and I want to make sure I'm not, you can see there's some harsh lines there. You kind of want to smooth those out as you work around it so you don't have kind of like a one straight line. It's okay to have some dark spots and some light spots. And you don't want to press too hard because you don't want this to get in the indent. You just really want this to be on the outside. All right, that's good. Close this up before I put my fingers in it. Now we're going to go ahead and take our paper. And remember, the ink side is going to be our cover. So however you want to lay your paper in there. And carefully close that up. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I'm going to slide this in. You always want to have the folded edge first. So that needs to go through your machine first to make sure that you don't damage your folder. And it's made my sandwich. I'm just gonna roll this here to get that through. Sorry about the wiggle. All right. And once that's through, get that out of our way, you'll start to see our image form here. So, and you can see what I was saying, like sometimes the edge gets a little more on it, but that's okay because we're going to trim that off. And now you've got this really beautiful two-tone embossed folder. And it just gives you way more dimension than it would if we had just embossed it. See the other side where it's debossed there? It's really hard to tell, but once you've got it here, you can really see that dimension and really see the difference. So, love it. The other nice thing about our ink is it's super easy to clean. Our ink is water-based, and so all you need is your chamois. I'm going to show you how easy it is to just clean this up. I'm just going to take the one side, wipe it down, flip it over, take the other side, wipe it down. I even used red on this. I used pinks. And I didn't have any staining. So if you do use a pigment-based ink, it's probably going to stain. But you can use a little bit of Dawn soap, some nice liquid dish soap, and just a little gentle scrubber, and it should come off pretty easily too. So it won't stain permanently. It should take that right off. All right, once we've got this cut, like I said, we're going to go ahead and cut that down to size. So we're going to trim the edges. And then using the Fond of Autumn stamps and dies, we're going to go ahead and create our card here. So Fond of Autumn is currently on sale. The dies are on sale for $28. Now they still sell the bundle, but check the pricing because it's actually less to buy the stamp and the dies separate right now because these are retiring. So if you love this set, make sure you check out our link at the top to get on this website. And here is what our card looks like. What do you think? I love it. All right, if you're watching right now, make sure you comment with which embossing folder you like best. So this is our Timber 3D embossing folder, and we use that to make this beautiful background on our card. And you probably can't see it here, but I've sparkled that all up with some Wink of Stella and colored that in with our Stampin' Blends. And that background is just amazing. And I wish you could feel it because the texture on it is just awesome. And it just gives it so much more pop when you do that. So that is how you use ink on the background. So remember, that's background ink. And that's an easy way to really change up your embossing folders. Here's another one that I did. Same technique, different folder. So I did this with the Whimsical Woodland 3D embossing folder. This embossing folder is on sale right now for $4. $4. So if you want it, it's while supplies last. Make sure you get that ordered. I don't want you to miss out. But how pretty is that with the pink? And it's all just the background, and then the trees stand out. Now I did this with soft seafoam as well. Look at this card. I love this one. I used the Joy and Peace from the Leaves of Holly stamp set. This is also a retiring stamp set. Make sure you check that one out too. And I used some of the soft seafoam. This is our soft seafoam seam binding ribbon. And this ribbon is also while supplies last. I know there's so much pretty stuff that's retiring. And so that's on sale right now for $3.20. So great deal on that ribbon, and look how beautiful that card turned out. I just love it. So that is how you use background embossing. Now we're going to go ahead and grab a different folder, and we're going to do some Versamark embossing. So you are going to need some Versamark ink. Versamark ink is a, typically we use Versamark ink for, my Versamark ink disappeared. It's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. I was hiding it. Versamark ink is usually used for heat embossing because it allows powder to kind of stick to whatever image you stamp. It's also a watermark, so it leaves kind of a darker color as you're doing it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the Fern 3D embossing folder. So it looks like this. And we're going to emboss these really awesome fern images using our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And again, I've cut the paper down so it's 5.5 by 4.25. And you're just going to put that right in to your embossing folder. If you want, this image is pretty scattered, so it's not going to matter as much if it's tilted to the side. If you really want to get a nice straight edge, use that straight edge at the bottom. It's really awesome that they put that there for us. So use that as you're running it through your machine. Again, we're just going to use our bottom plate and our embossing plate, and we're always going to put that crease at the top. And I'm just going to quickly run that through. So here is our before. And you can see, and it's probably a little hard to see actually. It's a little hard to see those embossed edges. I can definitely feel them. And it's even hard to see on the camera, sorry, but there's a 3D effect that goes with it too, which I think is really cool. Again, that 3D embossing folder has some shorter and then some higher ridges. So it almost looks like the leaves are stacked on top of each other, which I think is really cool. So for this technique, you're going to just need your Versamark. and your embossing folder. And we're going to go ahead and take our Versamark ink and open that up. If you have a small cube of your embossing ink, that helps too. So you can take one of our little cubes and fill that with refill, a Versamark refill. And sometimes that's a little easier to get your hands on. I don't mind doing it this way, but the trick is to make sure that you're really gentle as you're going across your embossing. So we're just going to take our ink and we're going to go across the image. As we go across though, we're just sweeping. We don't want to press, because if you start pressing, you're actually going to get into the background, and we don't want this in the background. We want that foreground to have that watermark look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just gently run it over. And you can kind of start to feel where the pressure is. And you can definitely start to see it get a little darker as you go over it. And because these leaves have different dimensions, there are some parts where you're going to have to just get into those little spots, and it might be a little more difficult. There we go. But again, you just want to go over it real gentle. And you're just rubbing, and as you rub, you'll start to see the image starts to appear more defined. I love it. And I do recommend using a lighter color. I played with some darker colors. They work too. Sometimes you don't get that image to stand out quite as much. And it definitely depends on the folder too. There are definitely other folders you can use that have a little more lift to them and have a little more of the ridges. But as you can start to see, hopefully you can see that in the camera, it's starting to get darker around the edges where I'm going over it with the embossing ink. All right, so one more sweep over here. Yay, I love it. So now you can start to see that ink pulling out. Now it does take a while for it to dry, so do set it aside or use your heat tool and just let it dry. It only took a couple of minutes. It wasn't very long last time I used it. But now you can start to see that definition in your leaves, and it looks so cool on your background. Let me show you a finished one. Here is our finished card. I just love it. So pretty, and you can see, really see those leaves stand out much more than you would if you had just embossed them. And we turn that into our little Season's Greetings card. And again, that was the Fern 3D folder. So if you love that folder, you can comment that that's the folder you like to get entered into our drawing. Also, if you share this post, that will get you a second entry into our drawing. So make sure you comment that you shared as well. All right, that's 2 techniques. We've got 2 more. The next technique we're going to do is also an ink technique. And this is our craft white ink. So I've gone ahead and already embossed the folder. Again, I used that Whimsy folder that I just absolutely love. This is the Whimsical Woodland. So it has all these beautiful trees. So you can see, and again, because this is on camera and it's a little hard to see the embossing. Even when you're looking at it, because it's just one tone, it gives it a nice subtlety, but you need something to help it stand out a little bit. So we're going to help it stand out using our Whisper White Craft ink. Now this is a pigment-based ink, and it actually sits on top of the paper, whereas your water-based ink is absorbed into the paper. So it just takes a little longer to dry. But because it sits on top of the paper, you can use something like white, and it's going to bring everything out. It's going to stand out. You can stamp with this. It almost looks like chalk, so you can stamp on like black or dark purples or blues, and you're still going to see that image. So we're going to use it today on our embossing. So I've already run this through our embossing folder. Now I have an older stamp pad. I need to get a new one of these. So you can see I've just recently inked it back up again. So you do get an inker a re-inker when you purchase it, and you can just re-ink it on your pad. My pad is well loved. It's had a lot of uses over the years. All I'm going to do is, again, same technique as last time with the Versamark, where we used our Versamark to really bring that image out. We're going to use this to bring the image out of the white. So I'm just going to gently rub over the top with the white, putting just a little bit of pressure as I go. I do want to use multiple directions, so don't just stay in the same place. That way you can make sure you get all the little crevices. All right. And you can feel that you don't need, you can't tell on camera, but you don't need hardly any pressure when you're doing this. It goes on so easy. And of course, the juicier your ink pad, the easier this is going to go. So if you just re-inked it, you're going to get a really bright image really easily. Okay. A couple of our trees down here. Look at that. I feel like it just comes to life. All of a sudden you can see the image and it stands out. And it is so pretty. Now remember, I always cut these a little bit larger than my card front so that I can go back in and trim it however I want when I make my card with it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my trimmer. I'm going to grab one that's already dry. So we've got our image here. It's already dried and ready to go. We'll grab a white card base. We're just going to make this a simple card today. So I'm going to cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. I'll probably trim a little off that side. Nice. I can hear my husband in there. He's reading to the kids. I don't know if you can hear that on camera. I think they're reading Prince Caspian right now. He's getting really into it. All right. So 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to glue that down. I'm not going to do anything too fancy. Here we'll do kind of a simple card. Sometimes with these techniques, a simple card is all you need because you've got this beautiful embossing that stands out. Don't need to do much more to it. Awesome. So we'll go ahead. I like to use liquid glue if I'm trying to stick it down, just because there's a lot of little ridges and the liquid glue will get inside of those little ridges. Stampin' Dimensionals, those things. Can't remember the words. Your Stampin' Dimensionals will work really well on these too. And they kind of give it a little something as they stand up. There we go. And I've already stamped my sentiment. It says to friends near and far. And then maybe I'll put a little ribbon on that. And we'll use some Stampin' Dimensionals to pop that up. There they are. And I should have grabbed my Take Your Pick tool. There we go. Oops. Huh, don't put that on upside down. Why is that something I always do? And then I'm going to go ahead and put on some of our iridescent trim. This is also on sale right now. And it's while supplies last. So don't miss out. Don't miss out. There's so many good deals going on right now. And we're just going to turn that into a quick bow. I like this trim because it's super easy to work with too. Makes super cute bows. And you don't have to do a lot of work. So sometimes, you know, with certain ribbon, it's kind of a pain. Not this. This trim is really beautiful. It's great for your gifts, your gift bags. I'm going to need to trim those edges down just a little bit. Otherwise, they're going to be off the page. There we go. And then I'll probably just use a little glue dot here. Stick that down. And we've got our card, and all we used was our craft white ink with our whimsical woodland embossing folder. So pretty. So pretty. I just love that background. So maybe this is your favorite one. Make sure you comment with your favorite embossing folder. You can go look on our website if you're curious. And then if you share, you also get entered into our drawing today. So love for you to share as well. Hi, Joan. Hi, Nicole. Good to see you both tonight. Joan, you won the prize. I will be sending you some cards. You'll have some cards coming your way here shortly for winning our prize tonight. So that's awesome. All right, last technique, and then we'll run through all of our techniques and our cards for you. Last technique tonight, we're going to do something called a top and bottom embossing. So essentially what we're doing is we're creating space in our embossing so that we have a place to put like a sentiment. So I used our Fern embossing folder. That's the one we're going to use. And you can see where it's embossed on the top, and then it's flat, and then it's embossed on the bottom. So it gives a totally different look to your card if you're embossing that way. So we just need our embossing folder here. We're going to use our Pear Pizzazz cardstock, and we're going to use some of that beautiful paper that I used last night. That's name escapes me at the moment. I will think of it. It was sitting here a minute ago. I think I just moved it. But that paper is, oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, my chair's kind of squeaky. This paper is the Painted Christmas. Oh, I almost said that, but I thought I was wrong. And it's on sale for $4.80 for a 12 by 12 pack right now. That Painted Christmas paper is one of my favorites. It's red and green and traditional and yet not traditional, right? Because you can get some of like these papers with it, which I love. So that's how we're going to use it. And we're going to go ahead and use our folder. And the first thing we have to do with our folder is we're going to have to set the paper onto the folder in a way that allows us to